The inhabitants of Plymouth Water and Sewer District in the County of Grafton, State of New Hampshire qualify to vote in village district affairs. You're hereby notified to meet at the Plymouth Village and Water Sewer District Office at 227 Old North Main Street on Thursday, the 15th of March next for 6 o'clock in the evening to act upon the remaining articles of the warrant. So before we get into the warrant, I'd like to start with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we start the articles, Chris has got a statement from the...
Yes, I'd like to begin by reiterating something that we've been, that the main point we've been trying to get across as far as the money that we're raising or asking to raise and authorize this year. And the notion is we've got a long-term plan. It's an ambitious plan. It's a lot of millions of dollars, which I know is kind of scary because it's a big number. But I mean, normally we take on 1 or 2 projects a year, but we have, after consulting with our government source of funding, USDA Rural Development, they have suggested to us that we bring together a larger number of projects for a bigger dollar amount so that we would become eligible for a larger amount of grant money and low interest loans. So if we take a long-term approach as far as our borrowing and spread out our plan over a number of years, we have the opportunity to recapture a significant amount of money. So we are not asking to authorize and spend this entire sum of money for 1 year, but this is instead a longer-term plan. So that is, you know, we're working as part of a master plan, and we anticipate that we could save as much as, you know, between 25 and 45% of this total amount borrowed. So it's not insignificant. We also have the possibility of leveraging state DES money as well as money from the MBTE Trust Fund from the state of New Hampshire. So
translate the flooded fleet.
It's a chemical
Fuel additive.
yes, it's additive to gas.
into groundwater. I think fuel companies had to contribute to the trust fund.
Oh, there's a lawsuit. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess just one final thing. If we don't bundle all this money, then we're not eligible for the grant monies that we would if we were to take this on as a larger set of projects. So I hope that clarifies, you know, the general concept of what we're doing, and we certainly will have ample opportunity for a discussion for each of the articles.
Okay, so the results of your voting, we had 156 brave souls come out and vote on the 13th for Commissioner. 144 votes for Chris Woods, 1 for Bert Sutcliffe, and 1 for John Woods. For Treasurer, 150 votes for Robert Clyde. For Clerk, Barbara Noyce, 143 votes. For Moderator, there was an assortment of names, of which the #1 vote getter was Quentin Blaine. And so he will be offered the position. If he refuses, then it will be open and will be appointed. But that's where we stand right now. So,
Congratulations.
let's go on with Article 2. Replacement of water and sewer lines, to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate $10,925,000 for the purpose of water line replacement on Main Street and Warren Streets, water and sewer line replacement on Main Street Phase 2 and Phase 3, and Pump 1 Force Main on Main and Green Streets. $8,950,000 water and sewer line replacement on Bailey Avenue and Langdon Park Road. $475,000 in Force main sewer line replacement pump station number 4, phase 3, $1,500,000. The funding of these projects to be as follows: $10,925,000 to be raised and appropriated through the issuance of bonds or notes under and in compliance with the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33:1. I always hate that.
That's in sequence.
I know it means in sequence, but it's not what it says. As accepted federal, state, and other aid, if any, which may be available for this project, and to comply with all laws applicable to the project. Further, to authorize the commissioners to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity and other terms hereof, and to authorize the commissioners to take any other action or to pass any or other vote thereto. This appropriation will likely be financed through a low-interest loan grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Development. The commissioners recommend this appropriation. This is a ballot vote, and it's a 2/3, and the poll has to be open for an hour. Once we get going, we'll be using the blue ballots on this. So, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Yes. When are they planning on doing this? You were talking about low interest. What kind of rates are you talking about?
Well, we're certainly in a changing interest rate environment. We can't really say for sure, but our most recent loan was
2 and change.
yeah, right, 2 and
2.5.
less than 3%.
And well, in talking about, this may not be the time, but I was noticing on some of the other loans, I guess we've gotten loans to fund capital reserve in that, because I noticed we have, no. Okay, I think there were notes out there for about $5 million between the two. You've got
Mr. Chairman, or Ms. Moderator, may I?
Yeah.
Yes,
The
please.
debt service for the district is in the town report
Right.
after the green pages. So you can find the debt service for both water and sewer there.
yeah, it's on page W.
You mentioned something about we were borrowing to put money into capital reserve.
Well,
That's
I noticed.
That's not the case. That's
Well,
not true.
When I took a look at the fund accounts, the bank accounts, and the capital reserve, it was, around $5 million something combined. And then the notes, when I looked at the debt was, let's see, I put it on here. The debt was on page W15, but one was $3,319,000, and another one was $1,580,000, which is about $5 million in loans, with about $5 million in W15 is the capital reserve. But if we look at, let's see. I'm sorry, it was W18. There's a loan of $1,118,000, and then there's another loan for $3,257,000, which is sewer. One's water, one's sewer. So that's about $5 million in loans. That's on W18 and W19. And what did we do with those funds? Because it's nice to see the fund balance, it's nice to see $2 million in capital reserve, but what did we do with the money that the approximately 35, let's see, 4.4 million, plus we've got an accrued interest of almost $1 million. So it's about $5 million total debt there. What did we do with that? I mean, I see our fund balance is up, our capital reserves are up, but we're paying, looks like some hefty interest on these loans that are out here.
Let me answer that.
Yes.
Okay,
I have the line.
Mr. Ranlett, I think I understand what you're talking about. So just for example, if you look on page W19, we have one payment left on a 5% interest loan, and then we're not gonna have that loan out anymore. So that's $300,000 that's gone.
Likewise for the
We have
970.
one payment left.
Likewise for the 900.
$70,000 on page W19 as
Right.
well. We have only one payment left on those loans. So
Okay.
that debt is going to be gone
Or 1 year. But
at the end of this
All right,
year.
So this was,
This is all of our current loans that are out, and each of those,
why does it say total of all loans, 3,257,000, and this is what you've paid over a period?
no, that's our loan amount that we have
Okay.
out, but by the end of this year, you're gonna be able to subtract $970,000, you're gonna be able to subtract $301,000, because those loans are over this year. And if you look, again, if you look on W18, we have a 2% loan with Woodsville Guarantee for $375,000 that only has 5 more years to go. So these are basically our amortization table that shows you what our payments are every year.
And the purposes are listed above the schedule.
Right, so it tells you what the loans are actually for. Is that what you were asking? I think we were all a little bit confused.
Yes, well, I mean, you say we're gonna pay off this one, what's the payment gonna be on that one?
Those payments are right in our budget. Those become, once you bond, then you know this, you're gonna get an annual payment for however, whatever the amortization is. Those numbers, the principal and interest for 2018, are in our operating budget like they would be anytime. This is debt that's, I'm not sure, this has already been authorized, borrowed, and we're making payments. We did the work, we're making payments.
I understand that, but I guess what I'm saying is, if we have money in the fund, and we have money in the bank, and we have money in the capital reserve, why are we borrowing money?
Okay.
Well, that's an excellent.
And paying, because I know capital reserve, what kind of interest do we get on that 1.6 million that's in there? I mean, we get a little or nothing probably.
Right. I mean, this actually was part of our larger discussion in the plan that we're talking about. There was some discussion in the past couple of months about, do we go ahead and use some of that money to retire this debt? And that actually works against us as part of a long-term plan, because with less debt, we're not eligible for those the grant money.
You have to be in debt to get it.
Exactly. I mean, it is counterintuitive. I would not plan my life that way. I want to pay down my mortgage and pay it off. But here, we are rewarded for borrowing more money, and we sit better by keeping these low interest loans and paying. It's cheap money. So.
The USDA, just really quickly, it's pretty complicated, and we've worked on this for the better part of this past year. The USDA RD looks at our median household income, they look at what our debt is, they look at what our needs are, and they put it into their black box, and we get eligible for the grant money associated with these projects if we qualify. So if we pay down debt, we're less qualified. What we're trying to do is capitalize on the grant money and the low interest loans. We can get those, but if we borrow 16.9 million in eligible projects, a couple of the projects aren't eligible for USDA financing, and we know we're going to get 250,000 from DES for the septic project, minus the 20, that's 25%, 4 million. Rather than to amortize 16.9, we'd amortize 12,425. So that's what this is all about, and we did discuss paying down some of the debt. because I would feel better about doing that. But to become eligible for this money, we need to leave our debt where it is. And the other thing they look at is our rates for water and sewer. And this is also counterintuitive, but we were told that our rates are so low that we barely qualify for the grant money. So they're our major funder. I don't know where else you can get 25% in grant. It's not free because we have to do a lot of work to get the, to get the grant and then to execute the grant. But we're trying to make the most of the district's money, resources.
And
well,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Judy.
to say, and later on, if you look through the warrant, you'll notice that there's a bunch of warrant articles where we're trying to use fund balance to do other things.
Yes, I saw
So
that.
we're not,
I saw
we're
that
trying
where
to keep.
where they were going to pull
Right.
100,000.
Exactly. So we're gonna use the fund
yeah.
balance where we can,
Yeah.
so it doesn't interfere with us being able to get the money. The other thing about getting this money as well is that we are not planning on borrowing all of this tomorrow. Some of it will be borrowed this year, some of it will be borrowed next year, some of it will be borrowed the year after that, based on our water master plan. This is just to say, hey, we now have authorization from USRD so that we can get the grant money, and they will set aside that grant money once it gets approved. So they will not take that grant money away from us. So if we get approved for the grant, they will take that amount of money out of their pool of funds and say, this is earmarked for Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District. We can't spend it on anybody else except them. And it could be up to 40%. We're counting on 25, which is the minimum they told us we would get.
Yes.
I just wanted to make clear what our debt was, though. I mean, if you go back to W18 and W19, the water department is $1,118,000 principal and $304,000 in interest. That's the debt for the water. The debt for the sewer is $3,257,965 interest for sewer. So when you say we have to have debt, I think we misspoke a little while about what the debt was. It really is $3, $4, $5 million, or $4 million, well, whatever it is, whatever they add up to. $5 million, we're already in debt. So when you say we have to be in debt, I wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on what the figure was. Because
Right.
we're not retiring the amounts that you mentioned.
I just want to go to comment.
Yeah.
You're right, we do have a lot of debt, and it's something that weighs on me, but I think, Mr. Sansucci, I think will agree with me here. The district didn't do work, or plan to do work, or spend money to do work, or raise the rates to do work for many years. And these projects, we want to address in an orderly way, in a planned way, not be chasing water leaks where you have interruption of service, and worse, a sewer leak where, it's an environmental disaster. We want to be able to plan this work we feel is necessary and inevitable. So because we didn't set aside money or borrow money or raise rates to do projects, going back 20 years, we've started to catch up now, and the total reason we bundled this much together was because the USDA RD folks came down and sat with us and said, we're not going to loan you money or give you grant money if you've got a $1 million or $2 million project. So what we would normally do is like nick away at it year over year, but that's why the chairman said this is ambitious, but I think it's a well thought out plan. We're going to pay for it now or at some point. Yeah, and Jason's just reminding me, the board had a water master plan done in 2013 or 14. And so this is, that was a plan for the next 30 years, and we're taking a chunk of it for the next 5 years, and that's what's being presented to you tonight. Mr. Sansucci?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I'd agree with most of what you said now. I find myself on your campus and not part of it.
Thank you very
The
much.
work definitely needs to be done. There's no question about it. It's been let go long enough. However, I also understand the concern of everybody else that's here. The one thing that I think most of us, we're not happy about the debt, but we know the work needs to be done. At least I'm speaking for myself now. What I'd like to know is how much my rates are going to increase over the next few years. Now, the last meeting that you had was something like 5% a year.
Yep.
What does that translate into dollars?
Depends on your
I don't know
bill.
what your bill is.
No, I'm just saying,
Right.
take an average bill, what would that translate? It doesn't matter what my bill is. Take the average bill of any citizen here in the town, and what would that increase be per year? 5% is compounded, we have to remember that. Also, what Carol just said puts our debt actually at that's 5 million, plus you're taking away 4 million up here, but then you're gonna add another 13 million back, because we're gonna borrow a total of 17 million. So that's,
No, we wouldn't borrow 17 million.
well, you already got 5 million in debt, so you're
Oh,
gonna
I
borrow another,
Yeah.
what is it, 11 million or something like that?
12.
Well, I
Depends
mean-
on how much grant money we have.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the point. And you say you're gonna pay it off over a certain number of years, and I think most of us realize that that's gotta happen that way. But the concern is, are we gonna be able to afford it without putting us all in the poorhouse? That's the reality of it.
Well, I guess
Right.
we feel, staff and the board feel that it's our responsibility to let you know what we think needs to be done over the next few years. This is really, it's really your decision to make. This is our best package, our best presentation to you, given where we are now. Never mind going back over time and what maybe wasn't done and should have been done. Here we are. And so would you rather address it in an orderly, responsible way, or would you rather have Jason and his fellas out, chasing a leak, which could be disastrous? We had the leak, I'm sure most of you drove over the detour on Highland Street a couple of weeks ago. We didn't know whether PSU, who's our largest user, who's our largest ratepayer by far, to the tune of about 30%, we didn't know if they could, feed the students in the dining hall because the water was off, and they pulled it out. They got the water back on, but some of our lines are 70, 80, 90 years old. So that's why I say necessary and inevitable. This is the best we know to offer you and to capitalize on the federal dollars that might be available and the state dollars as well.
So, my question is that you're talking short dollars or long dollars? If we do it over a period of time and borrow a little, you're gonna pay a heck of a lot more.
Exactly.
This is an opportunity to try to do it, wrap it up in one time, and save us a bundle of money in the long run. You're gonna have to go forward, you're gonna have to replace the lines. That's what I see.
At some point,
May I, Mr. Moderator?
Sure.
These are, I know it's a lot of projects. These are generational projects we're working on. Like Mel said, some of the lines are 70, 80, 90 years old. They've never been touched in most of your lifetime. So this is something that only comes around every so often, and unfortunately, we are here at this time,
Like a lot of the country.
right, like a lot of the country, we're facing this aging infrastructure. The leak 2 weeks ago, we tried to get on a valve right on the other side of the leak, couldn't. We ended up chasing valves all the way downtown. The entire downtown was shut down for a period of 3 hours. So we're assessing these situations and accounting for the business interruption, the risk assessment if we had another break downtown and it took out other infrastructure. These things are all, we're doing systematic planning here. This is part of the systematic planning process to replace our infrastructure, and that's what this article is.
For those of you that don't know, this is Jason Randall. He's our wonderful superintendent.
Dave.
I hate to bring this kind of a subject up related
Then don't.
to this.
Is that simple? Come on, Dave. Go ahead, I'm kidding.
I know you are. But just, and I'm being dead serious about this, just recently, we got hit pretty hard in the town because we were told money in lieu of, and the school money didn't come through, and something else happened and our tax rate jumped crazy. And I don't know about you guys, but it hit me pretty hard. And I'm just, how certain are we in this, that it's anticipation?
For the grant money, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, can you tell it's 75% in anticipation, or is it 90% anticipation?
No,
or
no,
are we gonna be lucky at a snowball in hell?
No, it's between 25% and 45%.
No, he's asking what are the odds of you
What are the
getting
odds?
those?
What are the odds of us getting any at all?
Yeah.
They're good odds, yeah.
How good?
Yeah.
Thank you,
That's
Bob.
what he's asking.
Thank you, Bob.
That's what he's asking.
I
How
mean, can you
good?
say over 50%?
Do you know what the federal budget's gonna be?
No.
Our contacts at RD don't know either until that's passed.
Okay.
So
now
we've
there's a
worked
chance of
well
not
with
getting
them,
that.
we have a rapport with them, they want to help us. They've given us the clues that we needed to put together a package. The staff up in Montpelier want to help us, and they know that we're poised to get this work done, and that's what they're in operation for. So I think we have a very good likelihood.
In
But without-
Montpelier?
without-
You mean Vermont? Montpelier, Vermont?
I do.
The regional
That's where
office.
the USDA RD office is.
Okay, thank you. Didn't know that.
That's all
Viking.
right.
I was just wondering, because you said it's an earmark, but when does a check actually get written?
I didn't say anything was an earmark.
No, but then you said that if that grant would be set aside just for Plymouth, so essentially earmark,
If you grant authority tonight to do this work,
right?
we'll be on the phone to USDA RD folks tomorrow saying our bond issues were approved. They will go through what they need to do to get approval, and when they decide to grant us money, whether it's 25, 30%, 40, up to 45%, they will then, the word they use is they will obligate it to us. That's their federal term for set aside. They're gonna take that money out of what they've got and set it aside for us. And then we can borrow it as we need it, but we'll always have that grant money available to us and the opportunity for a low interest loan.
But the check is not written until you need it.
Actually, I'll tell you,
I'm just looking
I'll
at
tell
the
you how it
federal
works.
deficit.
We're doing a project right now at the plant. What we do is, I don't know if they were burned in the past, but the entities, the municipalities have to spend the money, spend like 80% first. We get into an interim financing situation, which we're in now with this project at the plant. We're about to close on that in May. USDA gives us the grant money, we close the interim financing at the local bank, and then we get into the long-term debt with USDA RD. That's how it works. That's why it's not free, because there's a lot of moving parts.
Mr. Flanders, you had your hand up. I want
Yeah.
to give everybody a chance.
I think we've kicked this around a little bit. But I guess, Mel, there's no guarantees, obviously, with anything, especially with the government. We hope with this, if we give approval tonight, that everything will go smoothly and USDA will say, this is great, and we'll hopefully lock in a percentage and so on. There's also the possibility, because of unknowns down the road, that they have to renege or whatever on what they might say. There's no guarantee.
Right.
And thus, we've given you the authority, potentially, by this vote, to obligate these funds over some period of time. What is that period of time? How long does this or
5 years.
just 5? And if all the projects aren't completed or
No, not
aren't
completed.
obligated, if the funds aren't obligated within the 5 years,
If
the authority
USDA,
runs out that we're granting you tonight?
they would let us get started on our projects for 5 years. I think bonding authority goes until it's rescinded.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I mean, you can't rescind a bond issue that hasn't been acted on for 5 years. And we've done it. A few years ago, we came and asked the
did.
voters to, you know,
Rescind
basically,
the
yeah,
previous
rescind.
vote.
Right.
That's a warrant article.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's correct,
Right.
right.
Right, and if things didn't pan out, we would be back to do that. But if you grant the board authority, the board doesn't have to borrow the money. You know, it's already been said, we wouldn't be borrowing it all in 1 year.
There's a lot of ifs and whatever. Let's say that the Jason just needs to go ahead with a particular project that we're talking about here because of failures or whatever. It makes no sense to wait, and the money's not there, as we anticipated, the 25 to 40% grant. We are really giving you the authority to go ahead
Yep.
to do this project as it's needed, basically.
Yes.
So that, you know, just so everybody is aware
Yeah.
that, you know, we are giving you, our commissioners, complete authority, and to obligate us over some period of time to get these projects done. And we're putting our best faith in you, as we have right along, to make sure that we get the best bang for our buck. And if we don't like what you've done, you know, we'll
Talk at the ballot box.
exactly.
That's right. Just Patrice, you had,
Yes, Bob, thank you. I'd like to just apologize to the commissioners. I haven't been able to come to meetings before. You can only do so much. But Mel, you brought up the fact that the college is a 30% ratepayer. I'm just wondering, have there been efforts in the past, because this is a separate entity, to partner with the college? Do they ever make any kind of capital costs? I understand you're also extending water, or looking for water to help out Holderness School. So in my view, you know, we are a small town, less than actual 2,000 tax-paying entities in this little town that services as a host community to a growing state university. Have we gotten any capital contribution from them, or can we work at getting capital contribution for water and sewer on such big projects? And is that planned for Holderness also, Holderness School, or any other?
Holderness is giving, we're getting water from them for our town. So, I mean, that's a little different.
Right, but we've been providing water to them.
Right,
I
but they
understand.
purchase it.
But they pay for it.
Exactly, everybody pays for their water, but it's the taxpayers that are bearing the costs of all the capital expenses. And all I'm saying is, you know, we only have a finite number of taxpayers, and as things grow, and nobody's saying you don't need the work. We need the work and the infrastructure, we actually do. But is there, you know, can we do everything and try to partner? I don't know if any efforts have been made on your part to try to partner with the college to see if we can shake anything loose for water and sewer.
We have a good relationship with physical plant folks, and it's kind of an interesting, this has anything to do with Article number 2, but there's a sewer pump station down in front of the field house, which pumps the university sewage and Holderness School sewage over to the treatment plant. And they just refurbished that a couple of years ago to the tune of $450,000. The district didn't have any part of that.
Okay.
And they've also installed lines over there. And if you approve the water source at Holderness School, we'll be working with them to decide how we're going to get the water back over across the bridge. They have lines in the ground. We have some lines in the ground. Are they big enough? Do they need to be replaced? But we are working with them. And when I say they pay 30%, they pay 30% of everything now. We haven't made any efforts to approach them on capital costs.
Okay,
That
well,
would be
I'm just
like
glad
a
to hear
whole
that,
other
Mel,
discussion.
because it's something I just didn't know, and
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
I'm glad
I know,
to hear
it's,
that.
this
Okay.
stuff is
So
complicated.
I
It seems simple,
appreciate
but
it.
it's,
Right,
yeah.
and, you know, and I'm sorry I don't know these things.
That's okay, that's all right.
I noticed in here the wording about phase 2 and 3. Would the phase 1 been when we voted about doing work on South Main Street?
Yes, you have good attendance at our meetings, you say. Yes,
We listen to.
there's all, and you too. And she listens, yeah, that's even better. What Mrs. Moorhead is referring to, I'm sorry though.
that's okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I know this is not
This is
my,
kind of a free range.
I know this is not my living room.
I haven't dominated
I
today.
apologize. Don't bother me with that. The district has previously authorized $1,545,000 to replace water and sewer lines on South Main from Highland Street south and around the corner on Warren Street. I think that is reflected on one of the maps here.
Figure number 1 here.
And because of this bundling, the engineers told us we needed to add 500,000 to that this year, and then the rest of that money is to go from the Campton line all the way down through. That is not going to be this year. Yeah, good question, Mrs. Wyatt.
Yes, Dave.
So if we vote this in tonight, and you call them up tomorrow, and they tell you to go for a walk, does this fail, or do you guys still go ahead with this?
No, this is not dependent upon. It says would likely be financed, because that's the only word I can use. That's been approved by the attorney too, by the way.
I understand that.
Then the selectmen, the commissioners would have to say, all right, are we prepared to bite off these bonds without the grant money? But we're not thinking that way, Mr. Wyatt. We're really hoping that we get.
We really are thinking positively.
Yes. Chris.
Okay, I'd like to circle it back to the sort of the long-range debt load, how that's going to go up and down, and what impact that may have on our rates.
Right.
Looking at the two little boxes at the bottom of page W18 and W19, this year in 2018, we paid for both of those boxes $577,000 roughly. The budget accounted for $577,000. Now, if you look, there's several of these that are going to be running out. For example, the top page, there's 5 more years of $75,000. Now, if I understand this proposal correctly, it could be perhaps as long as 5 to 10 years before we would be fully paying, let's assume it's the $12,425,000. Okay, so let's assume that somewhere between 5 and 10 years we have fully encumbered ourselves with $12,425,000 in debt. All right, well, I just did a little calculation, or actually used an online calculator. The 30-year level payment, assuming 3% interest, is at roughly $480,000. So you round that up to about $500,000. So using that number up there, $12,425,000, probably within 10 years, we will have assumed an extra $500,000 of debt to be paying every year. Now this year, as I said, we're paying $577. That's going to be going down in a few years. So let's assume that in another 7 or 8 years, that's down to say $450,000 a year.
Must be more than that, but
right. I guess from 50,000 feet, just napkin type calculations, we're almost going to be within 10 years, our debt load will almost be doubled, as near as I can tell. And what I don't comprehend from any of these numbers here is how that translates into the our ability or the rate and how we set that part of the budget. But I'm just sitting here talking out loud, doing a little calculating, and I think that this program here, in about 7 or 8 years, our debt load would be approximately double what it is now, and we would be paying somewhere upwards of $1 million as opposed to $577,000 this year. So, but I can't. I would like to hear a comment from somebody who understands your your budgeting and your income process. I know it's been projected that you're going to grow 5% a year by rate. Would that be adequate to cover this? Excuse me. This.
That's the 30-year projection, keeping it so that it's not spiking. And we had a long meeting. I explained all of that to you.
Yeah.
That's what the board's anticipating, about a 5% increase ongoing.
For 30 years.
Yeah.
That's compounded.
Mr. Flanders?
Then in that context, how do you explain the projected 30% increase on the water side this year? Based on the handout dated
Yeah,
January
no,
16th?
there is a significant increase.
And there was a less than 1% increase projected for the sewer side.
On the rates, I'm sorry, yes, okay,
water
yeah,
rates.
yes, right.
As it relates, this is the annual, it kind of relates to Chris's question.
Right.
We're talking about a long-term increase, but on an annual basis, with rates go up and down as well.
Right.
And we got a 30% projected increase for this coming year, whether we passed anything tonight or not.
That is correct.
So try to explain to the folks how these things kind of factor in.
Well, I mean, water and sewer has to be factored entirely separately. And
operational costs, we're talking?
Yes, I mean,
as
those
opposed to capital improvements.
Well, both.
Yeah, we have 2 separate budgets.
Right.
The water and sewer, it's all together.
And our general state of cash and debt on those 2 sides is quite different. So
And this was also to get our rates to the point where we would qualify.
Because if you don't match on the state ranking of rates, I think that's done by DES, is it not? A rating of all of the districts and all of the suppliers.
Yeah, we had been.
You have to qualify by having a certain level of rate.
We still fall roughly in the 50% of where the towns are for how they charge for water and sewer. We're not the highest and we're not the lowest, but we are on the lower end of things.
I thought we're fairly average
Yeah.
as far as this being.
I think Jason can explain the household median.
Yep. So what we're looking at for affordability is the median household income in the district of Plymouth. And I put together an affordability management tool, which shows you what our actual rates are as compared to the median household income. So as you can see there, the projected rate for water is 1.56% of the median household income. And the threshold in order to be eligible for USDA funding is 1.5% on the water side. So that's part of the reasoning why the increase in the water.
Mr. Moorhead.
I heard this figure of roughly 2,000 taxpayers. What's the percentage of ratepayers to taxpayers in the town of Plymouth?
We have about 1,100.
So the cost is actually going to be divided across 1,100
Sort of.
ratepayers.
But not
I don't want to overemphasize it, but the university represents,
I understand that, but they're a ratepayer.
yeah.
One.
They're
One.
They're just one.
I just wanted to know how many ratepayers
Yeah,
are.
1,100.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not even. Some people use very little water, some use a lot. And so
I try to keep my.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to hear about the project?
Yes.
Okay.
let me,
I just have
Viking.
one question, and I'm sorry for my not knowing this, but as far as capital projects before, are they paid out of taxpayer dollars or are they paid out of rates?
So there's no tax
There are
money.
no
that-
taxes in
That's my
the
understanding.
district.
We were talking about
Right.
infrastructure going to taxpayers. Infrastructure is going to ratepayers.
Right.
So,
Right, somebody just mentioned that there are 22,000 taxpayers in all of Plymouth. This is the district, and it's all ratepayers. No tax money comes
correct.
to
I
us.
just wanted to clarify. That was my understanding.
That's
Federal
why I
tax
asked for
money.
That was one of the things I was going to clarify when I got to it, but yes. Now, what about the project? Let's hear about the project.
Project? This money's for project?
Well, as Mrs. Moore pointed out, and please jump in, help me. There's money in here for the water line on Main Street in Warren. There's a water line on Main Street, and water and sewer line, which would come from the Campton line down. one that we do hope to do this year is Bailey Ave and Langdon Park Road, and that's water and sewer, and that would be $475,000. And then the force main from what we call Pump Station 4, which is the pump station near the Burger King, and it would come cross-country and hook up to this Pump 1, which is across the street. So that's Article 2.
Isn't that some of what they were working on out there?
That was a previous phase. This finishes it.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, this will be the last phase for that force main.
Some of that sewage now is pumped up over the school hill, so it hooks up to Merrill Street, and that will all be discontinued. It would come here, it will come here.
Okay.
Part of the reason for that project, I don't know how many of you remember, but we had a lot of sewer breaks over there, and we had to do a lot of Band-Aid repairs, which is what took us into phase 1 of this. We fixed phase 1, but in order to continue it and prevent breaks coming down the pike, we've got to repair that line, which again is, you know, an old line. And all of this, unfortunately, as Jason said, we're working with lines that are old, that are potentially failure-ridden, and we don't want to piecemeal them together. We like to do this as a project and get brand new lines in the ground and not have to worry about this for another 100 years.
Is that heat on?
Yeah, we can turn that down.
So, I mean, it's pay me now or pay me later. You can pay in short dollars or pay in long dollars, is the bottom line.
Just by way of reference, or order of magnitude, many of you will recall the break that occurred just up the road here a couple of years ago, that we spent over $150,000 on
200.
200,
We
okay.
cleaned up, yeah.
Yeah, so it's $200,000 for that project alone. So there we patched in 10 feet of line, but that did not solve the larger problem of that entire stretch that we're proposing along Main Street.
Any more discussion? Are you ready for the question?
You gonna get to read it all again?
No, I'm not going to read it all again. I'm not. You didn't notice that last night? You didn't reread them a second time? All right. We're going to be using the blue ticket. There are some ballot boxes back here. We can put one of them on the table with the supervisors. Should say question number 2 on it. I will quickly go over there and unlock it, and show you that it's empty, and then lock it. So what you'll do is you'll rip your ticket in half and place in the way you wish to vote. Either put in the yes or no side which you wish to cast the vote. You can see the ballot box is empty, and there should be a little lock right there. I need them all. I need them. I'm just reaching over you. I won't get my problem. Okay, so the ballot box is locked and will be open. This has to be open for an hour. So we'll be doing this several times. The time is 6:49, so we'll be able to be opened at 7:49. I declare the polls open. And what we will try to do is after everybody has a chance to vote, we'll go on to the next article, try to run them 1, 2, 3 after another, because we have 5 of these. Okay? So please take a moment and vote. A new source of water, $225,000. And to construct a distribution and convey water to the district users, $2,700,000. The funding for this project will be as follows: $2,925,000 be raised and appropriated through the issuance of bonds or notes under and in compliance with the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33:1, in sequence, as amended, to authorize the commissioners to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, or other aid, if any, which may be available for this project, and to comply with all laws applicable for the project. Further, to authorize the commissioners to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine a rate of interest thereon, and the maturity and other terms hereof, and to authorize the commissioners to take any other action or to pass any other vote thereto. This appropriation will likely be financed through a low-interest loan and grant from the USDA Rural Development. The commissioners recommend this appropriation And again, this is a paper ballot with the polls open for 1 hour, and it's a 2/3 vote. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Yes?
Is this gonna be part of the total 16.9 up there?
Yes. Yes.
There's gonna be, what, 4 of them or 5?
4 articles that equal to 1.
Yes.
That will cover
Yeah,
the...
yeah, we wanted to have that discussion because it applies to all the articles.
Okay.
Does anybody want to hear about this project?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Okay.
Yep.
And again, Jason, feel free to jump in. For, I don't know, Judy, 20, 30 years, the district has been
Long
looking
time.
for a new water source and looked all on the Baker, looked on land that was owned by the district, and came up short each time. And shortly before I started working here in 2014, I guess it was, the board had hired the preeminent water geologist who happens to work in Meredith, named Jamie Emery, to try to find water on the lower fields at the Holderness School. So the first...
So we had them look other places for us as well.
First,
There
okay.
were 3 or 4 different plots of land we had them looking at.
That didn't pan out.
DES voted down 2 of them. One of them didn't produce any water. And
So,
we
yeah,
were,
so I just
yeah,
mentioned
it
those, there was a track record
Dead
of
end.
seeking. So Jamie Emery drilled a well over there, and the preliminary results were very, very favorable, both with water quality and volume. So before we spent any more money, we wanted to get into a long-term lease with the Holderness School. That actually took us a couple of years, not because it was contentious, just more getting to, time to get together, trustees over there. So, was it last summer? Last summer, we finally signed a 99-year lease with Holderness School, and the deal is that we would pay them $18,000 a year for 10 years once we have water flowing. So we're leasing the property now, and we can work on it, but we're not paying for it until it's successful, basically, right? And they've been very gracious about that. So this $225,000 portion is to have Jamie Emery's company continue with the test wells, actually drill a second well, which would turn into production wells, fingers crossed, and to go all the way through the permitting. That would be his responsibility. Then he would close up shop. The 2.7 million would then be to build a pump house and start laying pipe so that we could join that water source, which is going to improve the quality of the water that we get from Foster Street at the junction box, I'll call it, that's probably not the right name, at the bridge. So this has been a long-term project. The district has been seeking a site. DES has written to us that they recommend that we determine another water source. They don't like the location of the wells on Foster Street because of the proximity to the highway and the potential for some accident yeah. And before somebody asks us, the aquifer over at the lower fields flows in the other direction away from, so if something happened on the highway near there, it would go back the other way and not go towards our potential wells. So I think that's that project, and you obviously can ask questions.
Mr. Moorhead.
Wasn't there also something about we had to pay taxes to the town of Holderness last year mentioned?
Yes, yes, that's true. If a water and sewer entity or a water entity leases land in another municipality, it must pay taxes to, that really shocked and surprised me, and I sort of tore my hair out, but it's true. The town of Holderness has been very gracious. They set our payment in lieu of tax at $1 until we see if we're really going to do this. So we have an agreement with them, but they're not going to change that $1 until I think we have producing.
I thought it was 5 years. Yeah, and it's.
Well, it's a
With
5-year,
renewable.
but they were going to revisit the dollar, but then they told me they weren't going to revisit the dollar. The 5 years, I mean, if they ever give us a payment in lieu of tax, we said, how about $1,500? Because it can be an alternate to what would be the assessed tax. So it'd be like one of the nonprofits that pays the town a pilot.
Yeah.
It'd be like that if the town of Holderness is gracious to us. Otherwise, I think the assessed value was like $10,000.
That was a little more, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was
The
about
land
that.
itself was about 79,000, was it appraised at?
Yes, but I mean the tax rate. But I think Holderness is going to be very gracious. We've been over there a few times to talk with them, and they wanted to look at their whole payment in lieu of tax program, but they've only assessed us $1, and they have not billed us. And that's part of the agreement. They need to bill us, and they need to tell us by June if they're going to increase it. So, yeah.
Any other
That's
discussion?
in the
Yes,
budget.
Mr. Flanders.
If I could get an explanation of time frame here to complete this, if it were approved tonight, so that we would have a second source online?
Yeah, at least 2 years.
At least 2 years, because of permitting, well drilling.
Yeah, I think that's a year right there, and then connecting into the infrastructure is at least, you know, another summer subsequent.
And the connection would be at the new bridge?
Correct.
Yep.
So
Right, and then there's some
the-
details to be worked out along 175A.
Okay, so there would be no water treatment provided?
There would be.
Where?
Up at the junction, we've located a site up at the junction of 175 and 175A. As part of the discussion with Holderness School, there'd be a pump house and treatment built there.
And then it would flow into our existing lines and then up to the storage tanks.
On Reservoir Road.
Okay, it wouldn't go back to the well
Mm-mm.
pumps, go back. Okay.
Yeah, the reasoning for that siting location is because that was one of the only sites above the 100-year floodplain in that area.
Right, there is, And one follow-up question, if I could, why the variation between the right-of-way to the well field and the projected line?
In regard to?
The line from the well field to the 175.
That was the best alignment furthest away from the 100-year floodplain that we could project.
So what's the context of the right-of-way then?
Oh, isn't that for
No,
the?
that-
Which is the red line, the dash?
Oh,
red line?
that's, sorry, that's the existing power lines?
Okay, nothing to do with the water?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
You don't have to follow that?
No, sorry about that.
Yeah, water doesn't go through all that.
Oh, I know, but
Doesn't work
on
well.
the map.
What I'm excited about for this project, our wells here are 60 years old. And, hold your ears, Jason, I know you all don't enjoy drinking the water as much as you could. And if we can site these wells and get them into production and get our water quality better and have a redundancy, in case something happens here, that will be another legacy type of project where, you know, the town, the district has good water for the next 60 or 70 years with those wells. That's what, I mean, you know, I think that will be such a boon for the district if we can get this up and running.
One other quick question.
There are no quick questions, but go ahead.
It might be the answer. I know that our wells out here are becoming contaminated with salt. I've been told that they can actually see the increase. What about the salt problem? Or is it the water flowing the opposite way?
No.
Will keep that from happening at this newer well?
Oh, your new well? Yeah, that doesn't have the same water quality. Don't ask me what.
The hydrogeology.
Okay,
It's,
I got
the
you.
quality's better. I don't know the science.
Yeah, over on that side of the river, it's actually, the highway is separated by the river there.
Right.
So those wells will be on the east side of the
Okay.
river,
Okay.
separating it from the highway.
Okay.
So the migration of salt through that aquifer gets washed away mostly by the river before it reaches that point, in a nutshell.
Any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All right, we'll do number 2. This is a 2/3. Poll has to be open for an hour. It is 7:03, so we'll be able to end this at 8:03. I will demonstrate that the box is empty. This color, we're using pink. And the box is in fact empty. And is, or soon will be locked. And I declare the polls open. And they'll be open for 1 hour, so you may go. Want to see if the district votes to appropriate $150,000 for the purpose of replacing the emergency generator at the wells at Foster Street. The funding of this project to be as follows: $150,000 to be raised and appropriated to the issuance of bonds or notes under the Compliance with Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33:1 in sequence, as amended, and to authorize the commissioners to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, and other aid, if any, which may be available for this project, and to comply with all laws applicable to the project. Further, to authorize the commissioners to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon, and the maturity and other terms hereof, and to authorize the commissioners to take any other action or to pass any other vote thereto. The commissioners recommend this. This is another 2/3 bond issue. Poll will need to be open an hour. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Yes, Mr.
How
Moorhead.
old's the generator that's there now? Or is there one?
The existing generator is about 10 years old, that's there, and we're looking to utilize it at a different location.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
I would just mention, not that I want to generate discussion, do you notice that the sentence about the likely funding is not in this warrant article because the generator is not eligible for USDA financing? So we'll have our new treasurer find a financing source for us.
Okay. So, is there any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All right, we'll do this again. This time it's going to be a green ballot. Green ballot. And I will demonstrate that the box is in fact empty. And it is now 7:07. So I declare the polls open and to close at 8:07 on this article. So please come and cast your ballot. Of $1,500,000 for the purpose of making improvements to pump station number 1. The funding for this project to be as follows: $1,500,000 be raised and appropriated through the issuance of bonds or notes under and in compliance with Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33:1 in sequence, as amended, and to authorize the commissioners to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, and other aid, if any, which may be available for this project, and to comply with all laws applicable to the project. Further, to authorize the commissioners to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon, and the maturity and other terms hereof. And authorize the commissioners to take any other action or to pass any other vote thereto. This appropriation is likely be financed through the low-interest loan and grant from the USDA Rural Development, and this is recommended by the commissioners, and this is another 2/3 required poll open for 1 hour. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Flanders.
Mr. Moderator, at the hearing on this, back a bit, I asked a basic question about the allocation of financing on this. Historically, we needed improvements to pump station number 1 right behind us, and it was decided that not all ratepayers should have to pay that. That it would be allocated to folks that had a need, and that was largely a policy issue, and it related to demand out on Fairgrounds Road and so on. So there was a allocation made to allocate the costs based on the capacity and so on. So at the hearing I asked, what difference is there going to be to this approach than the previous approach in terms of paying for it? And of course, the obvious difference is that all of the district ratepayers will be paying for this improvement versus the previous policy of just some of us paying for the improvements.
Well, there's a fairly simple answer in that it's a different situation now. What you were alluding to before was strictly Fairgrounds Road capacity, and I think there was an argument there that it was just a distinct portion of the town that was going to benefit, or the district rather, that was going to benefit from that. In this case, we're now we're enlarging, making this pump station larger and connecting it in with the new force main. So, by rerouting, correct me if I'm wrong here, Jason, we're rerouting the line that comes along Tenny Mountain Highway. So, I mean, the whole role of this pump station expands to benefit a larger part of the district.
So there's a policy change.
Yes, I think so.
Yes, inherent in that design change.
Yeah, it's because it's our own infrastructure we're changing.
If I could, going back historically, the district agreed to take on Tenny Mountain Highway, Tenny Mountain, as a ski development years ago, with the proviso that the developers pay for the pump station, referred to as a Burger King pump station, as well as an entire infrastructure to that, and connecting it to our system. And they did do that. And in return, we allocated to the then developers a percentage of the total capacity of the wastewater plant that's essentially reserved for that group. Don't know where that whole agreement stands, since the original developers are long since gone. However, I guess what I'm citing is we have over time have had different approaches to paying for things. Mm-hmm. And some people benefit more than others, there's no question about it. This seems to be then another example where we haven't been real consistent in how we're addressing this. Otherwise, I could argue that, well, maybe the people that benefit, i.e. the people that are served by the Burger King pump station, should be the ones that would be allocated this upgrade cost, to be consistent with the last time we upgraded that same pump station. It's kind of a strange argument, and I made the same argument last night in jest at the town meeting. I said, why should I, on Fairgrounds Road, pay for improvements to the sidewalk that doesn't exist in front of my house? I don't benefit, okay? And so we all kind of weigh these things over time, and there's some opportunity we had back in the day on Fairgrounds Road to really push for improvements. And the result of that push, we agreed to pay for it, essentially, all the people on Fairgrounds Road. That's all changing again. We're swapping back to a generic approach that it benefits everybody, everybody should pay.
Well, part of this is that it's not so much that people are asking us to put in a brand new sewer line that's going to affect a pump station. This is our sewer lines that are already in the ground that we have to move, because right now where they are, it's potential breakage things. So this goes back to that previous, right, Jason? Previous, when we were talking about phases 2 and 3 to come cross-country, these are already our sewer lines. We're not putting new ones in.
This is a brand new line you're putting in.
It's a reroute of it's a reroute of our sewer lines. Yeah. Nobody is asking us to put in a special line. So you brought up Fairgrounds Road as an example, and just for clarification, I live out on Fairgrounds Road and I had to pay for this as well. So what happened with Fairgrounds Road is the people along Fairgrounds Road had been trying for years and years and years, spearheaded by our previous treasurer, Carol Elliott, was one of the people who was like so behind this, felt that it was a nice straight road. People didn't need to have wells. We didn't need to, septic anymore. It was going to be environmentally friendly to get us hooked up to sewer, and kind of got this whole project going and petitioned for a long time and talked to the district payers, ratepayers on that road, and we agreed that if the sewer line were to be built, we would bear a portion of that cost. And that's how that line came into play. The line that we're talking about is already our line that we need to repair, because if we don't repair it, there are potentials for breaks, hence phases 2 and 3. This is not benefiting just one particular group of people.
We're expanding the district.
And it's not an expansion of the district or anything along those lines. We have to reroute our lines that are there, because the lines that are there are in a potential area for breakage.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yep. I just want to clarify too that the station itself is about 32 years old now, and the pumps in there at the end of their useful life. Like you said, it's almost at maximum capacity there for the last 10 years. So we thought now was a good time, while we're making the change for the force main, to account for this pump station in the master grand scheme of things, and it is the right time to upgrade it. There's also the configuration in the station is a dry well, wet well configuration, and the dry well is about 25-30 feet deep, and every time someone has to go down and maintain it, it's a confined space, which is a hazard, and they have to go on a man lift elevator that's been high maintenance costs involved as well. So we're going with a submersible pump setup, so there will be no access. There'll be one large wet well with 2 pumps, and everything will be able to be maintained from up above.
I just wanted to get back to that time-out agreement. You're right. There was 100,000 gallons a day?
300,000.
300,000 a day set aside for Tenny Mountain development. Our read of that agreement is that's no longer in effect.
Null and void?
Null and void. They don't exist.
And yet there's a new entity out there.
But they don't have that agreement with us.
I don't have the agreement.
I just wanted to say, and I don't know if this makes sense to anybody. We have 9 pump stations, sewer pump stations, and we have a couple of booster stations for water. Some of you utilize the pump stations, some of you don't. If I'm correct, I don't think PSU uses any of our sewer pump stations. It's all gravity.
On this side, they don't use
right on this.
Any on this
yeah,
side.
I'm talking about the
they have
ones
their own on that side.
Right, and I wasn't talking about their own. So, in effect, again, they're our largest user. They're going to pay 30% of our expenses to do this project. Anybody that's on a gravity line doesn't use a pump station. It's folks that aren't. So, it's like not having a kid in the school or not having the sidewalk. We, as a collective, we, meaning the users, pay for it.
I just want to add, I stand corrected on that too, Mel, sorry. Langdon Woods dormitory does come to this pump station.
Okay, so,
Yep.
all right, so they're using 1. But we have 9 around town.
But there are some on pump stations that do pay. Steve, you pay, I think. See? So the setup was a little bit different historically. They're benefiting just a handful of people. River Ridge? The other one?
Valley, River Ridge is one, but mine is Valley View.
Yeah.
But that's their own
River
pump
Ridge
station.
maintains their own pump station.
Oh, okay.
That's
You don't-
that's the
the district doesn't own that?
We don't own that, but we maintain it.
Oh.
We have
We
a
maintain-
maintenance agreement.
And they reimburse us. Same with
Blueberry.
Blueberry Hill and River Ridge.
Right.
And
Fairgrounds Farm?
When you flush your toilet, how do you know?
we know.
If it goes the wrong direction, you know the pump's not working.
We know what goes down the drains.
Is there any other discussion?
Yes.
Are you ready for the question? Okay, this time we're going to play with the yellow ballot. Okay? And so I'm going to demonstrate that the box is in fact empty. And I will lock it. What time is it? 11:20. We'll open the box.
All the money?
At 8:20.
You see everything.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Article 6. Swear in Septic receiving unit improvements, to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,550,000 for the purpose of making septic receiving unit improvements. The funding for this project should be as follows: $1,550,000 be raised and appropriated to the issuance of bonds or notes under the compliance of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33:1, in sequence as amended, to authorize the commissioners to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, or other aid, if any, which may be available for this project, and to comply with all laws applicable to the project. Further, to authorize the commissioners to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity and other terms hereof. And to authorize the commissioners to take any other action or to pass any other vote thereto. This appropriation will likely be financed through the low-interest loan and grant through the USDA Rural Development. The commissioners recommend this is another 2/3, and the poll has to be open for an hour. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
I'd like to speak to this and, to point out how this might be different in the eyes of some of you in what you're thinking this evening. Septic receiving unit is a source of revenue for water and sewer district. And I want to emphasize that we get money because we process sewage that comes in. We are seeking to expand and make it easier for haulers to come in and process it. And it also has the indirect effect of reducing wear and tear on the wastewater treatment plant. So there's definitely some long-term hidden savings there by reducing wear and tear, but this is an important revenue source for us.
You mean the money trucks coming in?
Yes.
That is correct, yes. And Jason may be able to speak to, currently we're at about $300,000 revenue a year. And maybe you can speak a little bit to, we have some hopes that that number will grow as it becomes easier, as we have a scale to make it easier for trucks to come and go more quickly.
Yep, sure. So as you may know, last year we asked for phase 1 of our septic receiving upgrade, which we're currently under construction in right now, and we hope to reach substantial completion sometime in May or June on that. This is phases. This is the remaining work from that first phase that came in over budget. So the bid came in over bid, so we had to cull some of that out. So things like the truck scale and the grit pad that we would have out back, and also an automated fence and closed caption camera system. What those elements do to the project: the truck scale allows us to actually weigh the volume of the truck. Right now we're on the honor system, so as honorable as everyone is, there is variation there. So that's something we want to account for, is those, septage down to the last drop. So that's the reasoning for the truck scale. The truck scale will be put in a configuration where the hauler would have the option to automatically include a tear weight. So all they would have to do is pull in, and the stations are set up like a gas station. They pull alongside, dump, and then they could pull out. So it makes it very easy for the septic hauler to come in and out, which brings in additional revenue. The grit pad that we're planning to put towards the back of the facility will allow us to clean these tanks of sand and rocks and stones and other debris that we can't treat. Right now, we have to get it vectored out, and it costs money to dispose of it. So we're looking to dry this product and then potentially be able to dumpster it at a landfill, which would be a cheaper cost because the dry tonnage weight would be less than a wet weight. The automated slide gate and camera system will be for 24/7 access. So specific haulers that are permitted to our facility would be granted that access to haul septage 24/7, and we'd be able to monitor that. A lot of the haulers we talk with actually haul after hours. A lot of the operations are 16 hours, almost 24-hour operations, and that's how they make their living and income, is those extra loads at the end of the day or the beginning of the day when we're not available and they have to take it somewhere else, as far as Allenstown, New Hampshire. So that's part of our access for them, which we also hope to grow and be able to take in more septage, more revenue. We've had a couple of haulers we've talked to through this process that said, yes, we'll bring you 1 million more gallons a year if we have that availability. So this has been a very 2 or 3 year now vetted out project that we've done a lot of background research on to come to these essential facilities. And the second part of this project will be a grease acceptance unit. And the grease acceptance unit will be able to take brown and yellow grease from restaurants and process it in this unit and separate it from our waste stream coming through the treatment plant. Right now, there's only one other treatment plant in the state, which is Allenstown, New Hampshire again, that can take grease and process it and dispose of it. So that's something that's huge, and that's the primary reason why DES has pledged to give us at least $250,000 for this project, possibly more, to have that facility in Plymouth.
And it's called biodiesel?
Some is rendered possibly for biodiesel.
And the stones, all you gotta do is give them to the town for road fill.
Sure. Yes, Mr. Flanders.
We have one payment left on the previous septic receiving unit. It was a 10-year payment schedule?
Hold on a
Had to
minute.
be,
We got one payment left, $17,325.
No, are you looking at the Woodsville guarantee on the right?
Yep.
That's the interim financing.
For phase one.
Phase one,
And we
right.
already paid off the previous turkey?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's not,
Okay.
if it's
It's not
not
listed.
Okay.
It's not on the debt schedule.
Because as I
I hope we
understand it, the old unit, some commissioner pushed us into, didn't work as well as we thought it might. And,
We're beyond that now.
are we? And some of us are. And that hasn't been working for a while?
hasn't been working since I believe 2012.
Okay, so you've been pushing rocks and grit and whatever through the...
Through a 5,500 gallon tank, and that would decamp by gravity to our main headworks, main treatment.
So this is going to take care of all those problems, as previously promised also.
Correct. The phase one work, which is underway, included the tankage and all the receiving units and the underground piping and such, and the site work. So this is in an add-on to that first, because the bid came in over what was anticipated. So that was what those extra truck scale, grip pad, and monitoring and gate were part of that phase one work. Now I guess you'd call it phase 1A, that's included in this warrant article.
And phase one, just so everybody knows, did receive 25% grant from USRD. So they came through with money for this project as well.
Plus the original unit, we got like over 50%.
Yeah, that original unit was
A turkey.
not
If I
great.
could follow up with the grease part, any concern about odors with all that grease coming in?
No, there'll be a covered odor control tank, so there'll be carbon filtration for the odor.
Will the town be an aggregator for somebody like Baker Commodities or something like that, or does that stuff get landfilled?
Mostly people that deal with Baker Commodities are dealing directly with restaurants because the material's so clean. This is more of the dirty end of the grease, people scraping out the bottom of their grease traps.
The bottom of the barrel. It's really.
It's not the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody has to take care of the not the good stuff.
Right.
Weighing it, right?
Right.
Any other discussion? Yeah, okay, Mr. Flanders.
Only because Jason somewhat disparaged the septic haulers. I guess I have to stand up for them.
I didn't hear any disparage there.
Well, yes, in a slight way. He mentioned, talk about honesty in terms of covering them and needing a camera and all this kind of stuff. These are great guys. These are
No, he was saying that the weights, we had no way of checking the weights. If they said they were dumping something.
On a system.
Right, and they don't actually sometimes know what's on there.
They don't know what's on board. They're saying, I guess there's this much.
Right. But basically, they're a bunch of good guys.
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
Absolutely.
I've gone and spoke to them at their meetings before, their association meetings, and I'm very good in relations with all of our septic spas in the state.
The cameras were so that they can access our site off hours and we don't have to staff it. It's not lack of trust.
Exactly, but trust comes into play because it's been an issue.
Right.
The treatment plants for
Well,
years.
to add something to this discussion, in 2014, our auditors said, honor system, really? You need to get a better system so that you are billing all of the sewage that comes in. And, you know, other than to have, I mean, the weight scale is our answer to that.
Right, you could go with a flow meter setup, which we currently have in that unit you spoke of. And the problem with that, doesn't allow the hauler to discharge their load under pressure, and doesn't allow them to have a speedy process in and out. Some of them, it takes over 20 minutes for them to offload under a flow meter setup, so the weight scale is an alternative to that to make it speedier.
How long is the truck scale going to be?
40-foot truck scale. So we'll be able to take a 10-wheeler. We do have one tractor trailer hauler, so that we would potentially talk to them about charging them the full volume of the trailer each time, because typically that's what they bring in.
Oh, so they won't fit on the scale, so
Correct.
we're just charging them.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Yes, in the back.
You're charging them by weight, not volume.
Weight converted to volume.
And follow up to
Yep.
that. With the increase in flowage that we'd be receiving with this, I'm not sure how this is treated now. Will it be able to handle the increase?
Correct.
Are we looking at another capital improvement in the near future for that?
Nope.
Good question, though.
Yep. We have sludge dewatering facility that can operate up to 24/7, possibly up to 16 hours unmanned. So we do have that capability. Currently, we operate typically during the busy season in the summer, 5 days a week for 8 hours a day. Towards the winter time, we do 2 to 3 days at 8 hours a day. So there is the capacity there.
Any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Flynn.
I would just like to thank Jason for attending their meetings. My wife and I went to the septic hauler's ball last fall. Interesting meeting.
Okay. Yes.
Do we have an anticipated revenue increase with this?
We have looked over the years, and like I said, we'd be based on how much gallons can be brought in. Like I said, some haulers have said they bring in 1 million more gallons. We've also talked to the commissioners about possibly opening up the territory. Right now, we have 25 towns that are in agreement to bring septage in at a lower rate than any other town throughout the state. So possibly by changing that rate, that they are able to dump septage to a flat fee, we'll be able to bring in more septage from around the area, particularly the North Country. Everything from here on all the way up to Pittsburgh. We get septage from Mount Washington, the North Conway area, Pittsburgh State Parks, throughout there, all the way over to the the Haverhill side of the state on the west, and all the way over to the Freedom Effingham area on the east. So there's a huge area that is actually coming here for septage.
So the answer is yes, but we don't have a number on it, and we won't know until.
Correct.
I mean, we'll get a good number in
You know,
retrospect.
percentage? I mean,
I don't
when
know.
you said we make what? We bring in
About 300,000.
revenue?
correct?
Yes.
Well, no,
Revenue.
that's revenue. That's
From the
dollars
septic
coming in.
Above our operating costs.
Well,
It goes
it's
for
three-
that.
It's revenue that
it's cash
offsets,
receipts.
offsets our operating cost.
Right.
Wendy.
What happens to this end product? What happens to it? That's what
It
I'm
is-
worried about.
is
Just
dewatered.
sounds like taking on law here.
It ends up in the river. It ends up treated.
The water does.
The water does.
The water.
Not the salt. That's what she was asking, the salt.
It goes to Ashland.
Yes, go ahead, please, bail me out of this.
So the sludge is brought into the facility and dewatered. So we actually squeeze the water out of this material and make a cake. And the dried cake
That is the
about,
technical term.
about 30% solids is lime stabilized. So we bring the pH up to about 12 for 24 hours and kill the pathogens.
Okay.
And then we can directly land apply it on farmers' fields
Ah, and we do that with?
with
What about
resource
metals and
management.
things like that? What about metals?
Yep,
We don't have businesses in the area that have that contaminant.
But there are possibilities in septage to have those come in. So we do have a sludge quality certification as part of the 503 Federal Register regulations, and we do test for an array of metals and volatiles, semi-volatiles and such. Yeah.
Any other discussion? Who knew that this would be so interesting? I wasn't going to use that term, but I was thinking about it, okay? Are you ready for the question? Yes. All right. So, Article 6. Again, I will show you the ballot box is empty. This time we're using the gray ballot, not the white one at the very end, but the gray one. All right, and I will demonstrate that the box is empty. The time is 7:39. So we'll be able to open at 7:49. This is a bigger box. It is empty. All right, so Article 7, to see if the district vote to raise and appropriate $181,000 to be placed in the existing Water Capital Reserve Fund under provisions of RSA 31:19 TAC A as follows. Water distribution, emergency repair, $30,000. Water pump and motor repair, $5,000. Water storage tank replacement, $75,000. Water zone meters, $50,000. Vehicle and heavy equipment, $21,000. The sum of this to come from income from departments and not from taxation nor from the fund balance. And this is just a majority vote and recommended by the commission. Do I have a motion? Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? None forthcoming. Are you ready for the question?
Yes.
All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. To vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Which brings us to Article 8. Deposit into sewer capital reserve. To see if the district vote to raise and appropriate from the district sewer fund income from departments the sum of $97,000 to be placed in the previously established sewer capital reserve funds under provisions of RSA 31:19 TAC A as follows. WWTP, wastewater treatment plant. Expansion and upgrade, $60,000. Collection system emergency repair, $5,000. Wastewater treatment plant emergency pump and machine repair, $4,000. Pump station improvement, $6,000. Vehicle and heavy equipment, $22,000. The sum to come from income from departments and not from taxation nor from a fund balance. Again, this is recommended by the commissioners. Is there any discussion?
How about moving the question first?
Why?
Or did we already read this one?
No, no. This is a new one. I just read it. We voted on the other one.
Yeah, but nobody...
You don't have to move the question. We already voted on it. I asked the
No, he
question.
means to make a motion to approve it as read.
Oh.
You know, like as in so moved.
You're getting tired.
Yes, yes, I am very tired. Do I have a motion?
Keep me in order. Yes, you do.
All right, been moved and seconded. Now discussion.
It takes a village.
Yes, it does. And right now, I feel like the village idiot. So.
I won't say a word, Bob.
All right, any discussion? Look at my wife laugh at that.
We're being very quiet back here.
Just be glad Gordy's
No discussion forthcoming. All those in favor of Article 8 is read will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 9. Deposit sewer funds into capital reserve. To see if the district vote to raise and appropriate from the district's December 31st, 2016 sewer fund balance the sum of $900,000 to be placed in the previously established sewer capital reserve funds under provisions of RSA 31:19 TAC A as follows. Sewer line replacement, $450,000. Wastewater treatment plant expansion and upgrade, $450,000. The sum to come from sewer funds balance, not from taxation, and this again is recommended by the board. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor of Article 9 as read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. The vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Which brings us to Article 10. To see if the district vote to establish a $20,000 contingency fund for the current year for unanticipated expenses that may arise, and to further to raise and appropriate $10,000 for water and to appropriate $10,000 for sewer to place in said funds. This sum to come from income from water and sewer departments, not from taxation, nor fund balance. Any appropriation remaining at the end of the year will lapse to the respective funds. Commissioners recommend this. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. None forthcoming.
Well, wait, there's a question now, I'm happy to explain.
Where?
Well, they're having their own discussion, but
Oh, you know what the question's going to be?
I was eavesdropping.
Oh, all right.
No, let's put it this way, I would anticipate the question.
Okay.
So we started to do the contingency, I think this is the third year. You have to have a warrant article every single year, you can't just keep it in the budget. And the rule is, the Department of Revenue rule is, if you spend any of it, the commissioners have to report it out. And you'll find it in Commissioner Woods' report that we spent around $6,000 to camera, which I know is a verb, is a noun, but we verbalize it in this business, to go inside the, is it the largest storage tank? The big one or the small one?
Right, the large
The
one.
large 2.5 million gallon storage tank on Reservoir Road had a crack inside. So we got a frog person, scuba diver, in with the right equipment to assess it, and then they patched it up. My line. They put, yeah.
Duct tape.
So that was something we did not anticipate, we did not budget for, and it seemed to be appropriate use of a contingency fund. The rest of it is intact. So out of the 20, we spent 6,000 something around there. And the year before, I believe we spent a little bit out of it too, and we reported that out as well last year. So that's the soup to nuts on contingency. We only spend it if we don't have an appropriation otherwise in the budget.
Well, what I'm trying to understand is that it's, the money that's left over is kept in a reserve balance?
No, like say you appropriate $5,000 and you only spend $2,000. Any monies that's left over goes, that's what establishes your fund balance.
Your what balance?
Your fund
Your
balance.
fund balance.
Not fun.
So if your budget is $10 million and you spent $8,500,000, you're going to have the remainder. That's what builds your fund balance every year, right? So
the fact that we didn't spend it, we have $14,000 in fund balance that we could put back to other things.
But I'm just gonna do the devil's advocate here. I mean, why wouldn't you just lower the next year's tax or
we
rate
do. We
by
use
that?
fund
Yes,
balance
we do.
too. You'll see that in a couple of articles. We use fund balance to lower the rates. You don't just keep building the fund balance forever. You would never let us get away with that. But you need a healthy one. There's a range. We're within the recommended range for the retention of the fund balance. It's a balance. You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Are you ready for the
Thanks for your
question?
indulgence.
All those in favor of Article 10 as read will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 11, Asset Management, GIS Mapping. To see if the district vote to raise and appropriate, and I think it's...
Article, I forgot what I was going to say. This is time to...
No, they're opening it. They're already taking care of it. Do you have the results?
All right.
No, I just opened it.
Yeah.
It's 49 now.
Yeah. I gave him the nod.
Point of order.
I gave him the nod. I'm multitasking here.
You're in charge.
To see if the district vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $30,000 for the purpose of developing an asset management program for wastewater assessment assets and geographic information system mapping, and software to authorize the issuance of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and authorize the commissioners to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes in the amount up to $30,000 to determine the rate of interest thereon. Additionally, to participate in the State Revolving Fund, SRF, RSA 486:14, for this purpose, and to authorize the commissioners to expend such monies as they become available from the federal, state, government, or private sources, and to pass any vote relating thereof, and furthermore, to authorize the commissioners to apply for, receive, and expend federal and state grants. This article is contingent upon the district receiving loan forgiveness from SRF, expected to be $30,000. And this is another one that needs to have a 2/3 vote. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Mr. Moderator?
Before I go any further, I'm going to tell you the results on Article 2. Article 2 was 19 yes and 6 no. So 19 25ths is more than 2/3. Article 2 passes.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Can I speak to Article 11?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Did we get it on the table, Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Okay. This is a very complicated way for the state to give us a $30,000 grant. They make us do it in the form of a loan, then they repay the loan. All the principal is repaid. So we have a few dollars in interest. We have one of these out now. But basically, this is a grant. It's just, we have to have the 2/3 vote, otherwise the state won't let us borrow the money. And we try to do it really quickly so we get the money back in the coffers.
And so we have very low interest to pay on
Yeah.
it.
But I asked Jason to bring a tablet because what these projects result in is underground mapping of all our, I sound like I kind of know what I'm, all our vertical and horizontal structures under the ground, all of the pump stations, the manholes, all the water lines, everything has been mapped underground, and this is the story I like to tell about this. I don't know if you can just pass it around and let everybody take a look.
It might go to sleep, so you might have to tap it.
Is this all pipeline or is this water that we're?
That's all water that we're looking at. We do have another map with sewer as well.
When,
Don't drop it.
when the water staff has gotten a call in the past, something's going on at somebody's house or there's a leak, they used to come in here and go through a little shoebox of 3x5 cards. You know, they'd say, Moorhead's house, let's see, this shut-off is located next to the tree.
Well, no, they can find mine.
Well, not, yeah. But now, the hydrants are labeled, the shut-offs are labeled, and we're just continuing this process to get more data
Yeah. So.
in electronically.
Yep. So we actually have the ability to click on, you know, the white dots you see on there, the blue lines, and that'll pull up information on that asset. So we can actually track historically how many breaks we have in a section of line. We can see what the dates are, the age, the material, the size. All of that is available through this technology, this mapping technology, and all that correlates directly to a spreadsheet. So we can go through and actually sort based on risk and criticality and make this, you know, informed systematic decisions to replace this infrastructure. And this is what we're doing today, and this is what, you know, we're continuing to do with this grant funding.
I remember when they were doing sewer on Hawthorne Street, they thought like to Graham Archibald's house, it went one place where he said, no, that driveway wasn't there. Her line goes in up this place because they had no reference to
Right.
it. Well, we knew where it was.
So yeah, we're actually, we can actually tag photos now directly to these assets as well. So if we have a line dug up, we could tag a photo right to it if there's a break in a certain area and correlate it right through this system. So it's been a great help for all the guys in the field trying to find things and pretty much creating a historical index of what we have.
I just thought you might like to see.
This is, sorry, yeah, this is also available for stormwater systems as well. So the town can get involved and start mapping stormwater systems. This grant funding is available for that as well.
Yes, in the back first.
What are you gonna use to collect the data with?
We use actually this tablet right here.
With just GPS on it?
We actually have high resolution aerial imagery that we can actually see some of our facilities on the ground and actually plug those points right in. So we tend not to rely on the GPS component of this unit.
So like, let's take Fairgrounds Road.
Yep.
Like if you're going along Fairgrounds Road, sewer's easy, manhole to manhole, but
right.
You're looking at water line, plus or minus, what are we talking, a couple feet?
Yeah, with that, GPS is probably
photo, then
probably plus or minus 20 feet. But if we can get on a valve or a curb stop, we can align things, align lines that way. So the water system, we can have higher accuracy actually than using a GPS, the current way we're utilizing that aerial imagery.
Mr. Flanders.
I presume you have then detailed data of diameters, pipe diameters and type and so on.
Yep.
Yep.
How many feet of water pipe we still have with running through wood?
Unknown.
There's currently none in our asset inventory.
Just don't go to Campton.
It's missing. Yeah, follow up.
Will this be overlaid, linked to our online property maps also through the town? As a layer?
That's something a decision for the town to make. We have this ability, potentially in the future, we may be able to add a limited kiosk to our website to be able to look at some of this information. You'll also find a lot of it in the water master plan, the 2014 master plan that was mentioned a little earlier. That entire master plan is posted online, and that does have pictures with maps like this on them.
Yeah, Wendy.
This is kind of a general question, but you keep saying low interest rates and stuff. What would that be?
On this project?
No, just on generally this evening. You've mentioned many loans.
Well, it depends on what the interest rates do, but right now we're getting loans at 2%, just a little over 2%.
That could change though.
Yeah.
Anything could change tomorrow the way things are in our country right now, and that's, you know, you have to play with the cards you have.
Right, Mr. Monitor, might add to that. That's kind of an additional reason, you know, for asking for this money is right now the interest rates are low, and in 5 to 10 years from now, they're almost guaranteed to increase. So the borrowing now will be the cheapest it ever will be for these projects.
Once we borrow it, it's a lock rate, right?
Right.
Yes, fixed interest.
Okay. Any other discussion on Article 11? All right, this one is also a ballot, although it is not a,
Open an hour.
that's not open an hour.
We need to count on the ballot, we need to count on the vote.
So-
It needs to be by paper, but we don't have to keep it open for an hour because
Right.
it's under $100,000.
So I am going to,
Like to just go by.
okay. So I have another monster-sized box that is in fact empty,
Midnight. She's responsible for.
closed, locked.
Yep, definitely not.
No, 24 yes.
24 yes, 1 no, Article 11 passes.
Gordy's here?
And so it is now, what time is it?
8:03.
8:03, we can open the pink box on Article 3.
Of course I do.
Except for.
The box to put the ballots back in.
Yeah, oh, they can put over there.
Do you have envelopes to put the ballots in? If you care about having the actual ballots, we have to count.
Yeah, I do take them and I account for them.
Yeah, that's wasted time, but that's okay. We get the count.
We have to send samples to DRA.
What? The actual ballots that you had?
For bond council opinion, yeah.
You have to show that you had.
You have to show the actual ballots.
Okay.
Yeah, not just.
Do you have envelopes for them to put them in so that they're ready to?
I didn't bring envelopes, but
Barbara, we have to put them back in the ballot box.
Put them back in the ballot box and they can deal with it.
No, he believed that there should be at least one percent vote.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So Article 11 does in fact pass. We will now go on to Article 12 where they're counting on Article 3.
What's the count on Article 11?
24 to 1.
On 11?
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I thought you had read.
No, the 3, they hadn't opened it yet. We were doing 11
No, 3?
first.
Okay.
Okay? So they're counting 3 right now, and they'll
Okay.
bring that to me in a minute. So Article 12, appointment of treasurer pursuant to RSA 669:19, Tac D. CS predicts that the vote to discontinue the elected position of treasurer. If the treasurer is elected on March 13th, which I was, the person holding this position at the time of the vote will discontinue it shall continue to hold office until the annual district meeting first following the discontinuance, at which time the elected office of treasurer shall terminate irrespective of the length of the office's term, and further to authorize the appointment of the district treasurer in accordance with RSA 669:17 Tac D by the Board of Commissioners. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
Point of order?
Yeah.
Nowhere in there does it describe how we are going to vote and make a decision.
It's just about,
It's just a regular
voice
vote. It's a voice vote.
Strictly.
Yeah.
Okay, majority or minority?
What's that?
He's goofing on us.
I didn't hear him, so that's okay. Probably a good thing.
Explanation as to why you want to make the change?
Yeah. Why do you want to do this?
You didn't like who got elected?
No,
We did like who got elected.
Yeah, we did like who got elected. Unfortunately, we were having a hard time finding people to run. So it's been harder and harder, and I'm sure the town is finding this too, to find people who want to run for positions. So with the passing away of our previous treasurer, Carol Elliott, Carol Garrity stepped in as our deputy treasurer. But Carol did not really want to take over as the official treasurer. We voted Bob in. Bob will serve for a year. After that year, we have the opportunity to appoint somebody who comes to us and says, we'd really like to be treasurer. If Bob wants to continue, we keep Bob on.
Bobby for life.
Bobby for life, yeah. Kind of like moderator for life. Yeah.
This provides some sort of administrative flexibility for the board.
Just be careful from number 5 to number 6. He has a hard time counting. He says,
Yeah, okay. So that's sort of the nature of the beast. It's just been it's been very hard to find people who want to run.
I would not be a decision maker in this, but my advice to the board would be, as long as Bobby Clay wanted to be treasurer, sign the paper. So it's not anything about, current events. We're delighted that Bobby wanted to run. We miss him as moderator, but run for treasurer, and we look forward to working with him.
I'd like to see Bob run.
I can still run, I can tell you.
Green key.
Yes, you may have the green key. I would
Deb.
just want to know which one it was. That's what I was looking on my notes to see what color it was.
That's right, Bob, I quit.
So,
And I asked Bobby if he had any issue with this, and he said no.
no, I have no issue with it. But I'm going to give you the results of Article 3. Article 3 was 24 yes, 1 no, so Article 3 passes.
Same vote as Article 11?
24 yes, 1 no. Okay, and in another 2 minutes, we'll be able to do Article 4. So in the meantime, let's address Article 12. I got too many pages here. Article 12. Any other discussion? Are you ready for the question?
Yes.
All those in favor of Article 12 as read will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare.
And all that awkward language in that is right meaning of
Oh, I believe it.
state statute.
Article 13, the fund the operating budget. To see if the district vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $2,697,370 for general district operations. This article does not include appropriations contained in special or individual articles addressed separately. This appropriation will be offset by $804,000 from fund balances, $374,000 from water, and $430,000 from sewer, and the remainder to be funded through income from departments and not taxation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Before I get to discussion, the results of Article 4 were 25 yes, unanimous. So, which brings us to discussion of Article 13. Yes, sir.
My usual question is this does include a responsible increase in salary for these hard-working individuals in our department, because I have seen these guys working and sometimes they're out there.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The board actually adopted a schedule, a pay schedule. So
Several years ago.
yeah, several years ago. So we're just playing that out. It's
It's mostly for
We have increased. I'm proud to say we've increased their salaries to livable and then some, and for the work they do.
Did
Over
you
the
need to go
last
down and talk to Congress and get better pay that way?
yeah, talk to Congress. Yeah.
Discussion?
Yeah. What else next?
Yeah, I know. And we have 11 minutes before we can go. Okay. Any other discussion on this article? All right. Are you ready for the question? What? Yeah, sure. Please. We got time to kill before we can open that last ballot box, so please.
Well, I know that we're looking at the appropriations pages in here, and it looks like we're looking at the third column from the left. That's pretty straightforward.
What page are you on?
Ending on page 1, W33. I see the same number there that is in this warrant. Now, if we go to the revenue picture, there's only 3 columns there. So which column is the relevant column to the coming year, please?
Is there one labeled?
On page W36, W37.
Yeah, it would be, oh, I'm sorry, the revenues.
What's the third column?
Third column?
It's the estimated revenue ensuing year.
Okay.
Which is now, this
So
year.
if I may ask, what's the $372,000 in the middle that goes to the goose egg on the coming year?
I don't know what you mean by goose egg, but that number sounds to me.
Charge for services.
Septage receiving. It's the 300,000 we talked about before, plus some other miscellaneous revenue.
All right.
74.
The large part of our revenue is through user fees and the septage receiving. And then we get miscellaneous fees like, say somebody was gonna build a convenience store out on Tenny Mountain Highway, they would be charged connection fees.
But you can't budget that in, include it in the expected revenue?
It is budgeted in.
There's a zero there.
Oh, I'm
for
sorry.
other charges. It goes 400,000 in the W36 charges for services, and it goes down to 0 this year.
Where are you looking? No, line 349.
Yeah, right. You could have put in 300,000 as an estimate.
Or 400, yeah.
Wouldn't hurt anything.
It must be, it's probably in the number above. No, I don't think it is. No, I don't think it is. I'm gonna have to check on that. We definitely estimate receiving that revenue.
All right.
I don't know why it's not on the form, but we definitely, we should be in there. We have a chance at the Department of Revenue to revise these.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's an oversight.
Yeah, I think
Right.
something,
Let's hope it's.
yeah, no, I don't understand it either.
So,
Yeah.
to us to do.
It is an asset.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on Article, too many pages, 13? Are you ready for the question?
Yes.
All those in favor of Article 13 is read, will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Which brings us to wait time, while we wait for the rest of the vote. So Judy has some stuff to discuss and other business and things, so.
So, as I've alluded to throughout the meeting, our previous treasurer and previous commissioner passed away earlier this year. And just so a little bit of history about Carol Elliott, Carol served all of her life. Any income she made was as an elected official. So part of it was when she was working for the town. She worked over in Haverhill. And she, in 2002, March 12th of 2002, she was elected a commissioner of the Water and Sewer District. She served until January 2nd, 2009, when our previous treasurer passed away. I hope this isn't a continuing trend.
Yeah, me too. I resigned.
They're not appointing you, they're anointing you.
Right, exactly.
Bobby, they put arsenic in the water.
Okay.
Nobody else is drinking.
So, yeah, so now that I just realized all of that, I feel really horrible. Carol felt that she would be better serving to the district if she moved away from the commissioner position and went to the treasurer position. And under her wonderful way that she had with talking to our financial advisors and banks and our auditors and everything, has helped us keep our rates as low as they are and our loan payments and interest rates as low as they are. And she served the district for a little over 15 years in 2 different capacities. So just a little bit of history on how Carol has served. And now, on a more positive note, I guess, I'd like to talk a little bit about Jason, so I'm going to put him on the spot. As you have seen tonight, Jason is very eloquent in how he speaks. He does the district proud at every turn. We are incredibly glad to have him on board and keep patting ourselves on the back that we made a very good decision in hiring him. So we're very proud of ourselves as well. But besides that, under Jason's tutelage, the district was awarded the Water System of the Year by Granite State Rural Water. And Jason was also named Operator of the Year by the New England Water Environmental Association. With these with these kudos have kind of curried some favors with DES and things like that. Jason seems to have an in with a lot of people, and that is one of the reasons that we have been told that we are eligible for funds that they wouldn't have thought to give us before. So we'd like to thank Jason.
We're keeping him.
Yeah, we're not letting him go. So we'd just like to thank Jason for what he does every day.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the ratepayers and the commissioners and Mayor Elise for giving me this opportunity. It's been a great 3 years so far. I've been able to grow into the position, and I enjoy the heck out of it. So thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is when we start telling jokes?
Well, before everybody disperses, I want to say thank you for coming and being so interested in our projects, because usually it's just...
It's just the Moorheads and the Flanders.
The Moorheads, we we have more people that have to be here working than we have audience, so I really do appreciate your interest. And, you know, when I first started working here, I thought simple, right? Water line, sewer line. It seems very simple, and most of it's underground, so, you know, we turn our faucets on, we flush the toilet, simple. But it can be very complicated, and I'm so fortunate too that I have a great board who they're supportive and do their due diligence, and Jason to, you know, head up the whole field operation and all the science.
Well, the sewer part's not a problem until it backs up.
Yeah, I know it.
And I guess one of the other things we should say is Jason is in charge of an incredible group of gentlemen who work for us down at the plant. They are all men, but without them, turning on the tap and flushing the toilet would definitely not be as easy as it is.
There passes also
Sign, I guess.
one more to go in another
My name, Barbara Noyes Clerk.
few minutes. One no, so Article 6 passes.
Oh, yes, right.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
We stand adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your